Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the August 10th, 2021 meeting of the State Board of Education. I'm Alan Walters. I'm the chair-elect, and I'm filling in for Dr. Christy Woodall, who had a conflict with today's meeting. And in fact, I had planned to be there in person myself. However, I got subpoenaed to testify at a criminal trial this morning, so I've had to resort to using technology to join you from Georgetown. So before we begin the meeting, I'd like to remind everyone to speak into the microphone so that the recorder will pick up for the sound for the minutes, and also for those of us online so we can be sure and hear all the important information that's going to be shared today. At this time, we'll start, and I'll ask Ms. Chapman, I believe, is in the room there, with the Pledge of Allegiance.
As the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, we'd like to ask for approval of the State Board of Education minutes for June the 8th of 2021, and also the special call meeting for July the 19th of 2021. Are there any objections to approving the minutes as presented? Hearing none, the minutes are approved by unanimous consent. Next item is approval of the State Board of Education agenda for August 10th, 2021. Are there any objections to approving the agenda as presented? Hearing none, the agenda is approved by unanimous consent. This time would be the time for recognition of visitors, including news media. I will ask that, since Ms. Chapman is there, if there are any, if she would handle those recognitions for us, please.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize and welcome Mr. Adam Mincer with WIS-TV. Thank you for being with us today. Do we have any other guests? That's all.
Okay, thank you very much. Welcome to all of you, not only in attendance, but those of you who are called in or online listening to the meeting today. And thank you for your interest in the work of the State Board of Education. The next item up would be the State Board Chair report, and Dr. Woodall did not share anything for me to pass along to you this afternoon. So with no further ado, we can go to the State Superintendent of Education report. Superintendent Spearman.
Good afternoon, everyone. Ms. Walters, it's great to see you. You're coming in loud and clear from Georgetown. So, I know you're all interested in how the beginning of school has gone. We are cautiously optimistic. You watch the news, you know all of the happenings, and we had hoped that things would be very normal, and the spread of the virus that is not happening. So our folks are very challenged. Our educators, our administrators are very challenged as they open the school year. We currently have school districts that are back in school. Several of those have been in school for about 3 weeks. I was at the Education Oversight Committee retreat this past weekend with several superintendents, and one, Dr. Danny Merck up in Pickens, shared that their COVID numbers quarantines in the very first 2 weeks of school now are the same as they were in November or early December of last year, right after Thanksgiving. So the numbers are already showing up to be quite high, and students and teachers are being quarantined as directed by DHEC. DHEC did resume their updating of the COVID-19 dashboard of cases associating with staff and students today. I think that showed up at 1 o'clock today, so this is information hot off the press. The cases include any student or staff that contracts COVID-19 on school campus. As of this morning, DHEC reported positive cases for 68 students and 17 staff members. Those are the reports. Now, I will say that there's some cases that might students don't have the ability to return, staff to return because they contracted COVID prior to coming back to school. We are strongly encouraging families to work with their pediatricians, with their doctors. We are encouraging the vaccines. It is a personal choice. We're really strongly encouraging those students that are eligible with their mom's meds to talk about and to hopefully to be vaccinated, as well as the staff that's not vaccinated. I was talking on ring just before we started. Football practices started, cheerleading practices started, band camps have started up, so we are seeing the spread. But obviously, if you have been vaccinated, you do not have to be quarantined. So that helps to provide you with a more normal year. So we're strongly encouraging vaccination and also wearing the mask. This morning, I was able to participate in a very wonderful event over at the University of South Carolina, just a few blocks from us, where the university unveiled a 4-room exhibition depicting the life and legacy of Anne Frank. The center is the 4th of its kind in the world. The other places, obviously, are Amsterdam, where the Anne Frank House is located, as well as centers in Buenos Aires, London, and Berlin. So Columbia, South Carolina is the place that is. It will be a tremendous resource for us, for our students, families to go there and see, be reminded of her life, her perseverance, her compassion, and to experience something that we would never have a chance to do. Because most of us would never have a chance to go to Amsterdam to see that. So it's really outstanding that the university has done that, and I was very honored that they invited me to participate in the event this morning. You've probably been watching the news and know that over the last few weeks we have been announcing some of the partnerships with our ESSER III funding. One of those was with South Carolina Arts Commission. We talked a little bit about that. I'm very, very excited for their partnership to work with us in-school programming and after-school programming, summer school programming through the arts all across South Carolina, and particularly in those areas that do not have a strong arts program. Just recently, we announced our partnership with South Carolina First Steps, a $14.7 million investment of several early childhood education and parenting support initiatives as part of South Carolina's response to the impact of COVID-19. We're very, very excited. The folks at First Steps are thrilled that we will be able to expand those evidence-based services that we know work, have been working, but we just didn't have the funding to really take it as far as we wanted to in the counties across the state. So I'm very excited about that. Today we do have a very special guest with us. You have read about her. Some of you have saw her. And as we had our Teacher of the Year banquet, State Teacher of the Year announcement, but we are so honored that we have today with us Amy Carter, English teacher from Chapin High School, who was named our 2022 South Carolina Teacher of the Year on May the 7th. Amy has 22 years of experience in the classroom. I think all, but mostly in high school English. We've just been talking, and students are she's been telling me about some of the projects and readings that they do and conversations that they have in her class. And her students are very fortunate to be under her guidance. And Amy, we're so glad to have you here today. She's just really starting her duties. Jenna Hallman is with us also from Sarah, and Carla Edwards, who works here in our office with the Teacher of the Year program. So thank you all for what you do. And Amy, you'll come forward. I'm going to yield the rest of my time to you.
Do you mind if I take over?
Sure.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me today. I am honored to stand before you. Thank you, Superintendent Spearman, for introducing me and giving me a moment to share with you. As an educator, I believe in the power of what I call gold star moments. Moments that are worthy of that old-fashioned gold star recognition. I believe that's where magic happens in our classrooms, and it's what really inspires the students that we teach. Indulge me for a moment, if you will. There's something that I think each of us in this room has in common, and that is that we all probably had an educator in our life who impacted the person that we've become. And we are probably the result of that educator's inspirational and intentional moments with us, those worthy of gold stars. I also feel certain that what you remember about this educator is more than the content that they taught you, that it's someone who made you feel valuable, seen, and successful. I stand before you today because a gruff old football coach who I did not like on the first day of school righted my world one day in the 10th grade and truly saved my life. When my world was falling apart, he stepped in and he wrote the script for me. What he taught me in that moment is that teachers are content experts, but they're also champions. In high school, I grew up, first of all, in public schools in Gwinnett County, Georgia, and I'm the oldest of 3 children. One of my earliest memories is hearing my father's voice utter the phrase "once upon a time." My mother and father both taught me to value stories, and my teachers taught me that my love of story could be paired with purposeful intention with people, and you could call that a job. So in high school, my mother pointed to a boy named Brian Carter and said, "You should date him." And I looked at her and said, "He's the biggest dork I've ever met in my life." So Brian Carter is a very good storyteller. He's a master of a grand gesture. And so after I attended the University of Georgia, I married that boy and followed him to South Carolina. And 22 years later, I'm standing before you today. And over that 22 years that I've spent teaching in public schools in our state, I've also added the title mom to my list of identities. Garrison is an 8th grader at Chapin Middle, and Emma is a senior at Chapin High School. And being a mom has made me a better teacher. What I've learned about good teaching is that it begins with genuine connection. And at the beginning of every school year, I remember a question that Toni Morrison asked. She said, when a child, not your child, but when a child walks into a room, do your eyes light up? And so I remember that. Do my lessons begin with warmth? Does my light encourage theirs? I love the power of stories, but I also love the power of connection. Teaching is a legacy field. What we do and the way we do it affects the minds, but also shapes the hearts of our students. We are never finished, and our actions and decisions have lasting impacts on what's to come. And just like that gruff old football coach showed me years ago, the same holds true today. Our purpose holds because we are stewards of humanity. As the 2022 South Carolina Teacher of the Year, I am excited to be part of conversations about connecting with students, engaging and learning, and inspiring them to be the best versions of themselves. The teachers across South Carolina truly deserve a gold star, that old-fashioned recognition for all the new kinds of connection that we've had to come up with over the past year and a half. Fun and done. I look forward to hearing their stories and being a part of conversations where we figure out what we've been doing over this past year and a half, how it fits into how we move forward. I look forward to helping recruit a new generation of enthusiastic, passionate, and connection-seeking educators. I brought something with me today that I'd like to give you. I don't know if I'm allowed to approach your table, but I'd like to leave you with an actual gold star to say thank you for your work in education and to remind you that your influence and your advocacy can inspire teachers to continue to be passionate about their content and purposeful about people.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report. I didn't know if there were any comments, folks, to our State Teacher of the Year, and then if there are any questions of me, I'll be happy to address those.
Certainly, and I want to congratulate Ms. Carter, and we're looking forward to her year of service. And the floor is open if any other board members have comments or questions.
I have a question I'd like to pose to Superintendent Spearman. There's a report indicated that DHEC had already been publicized the dashboard, and if my memory serves me correctly, it indicated students who had contracted COVID-19 on campus. But I just want to get clarification because historically, the dashboard reflects anyone who reports to campus, whether students or staff, but then suggests that they came into contact with the virus on campus.
And Dr. Green, I'm going to have to yield. Ryan, do you mind coming to the mic? Do you have a good answer for that? Or?
It's the same reporting. These are students and staff that be on campus. Like it was not necessarily contracted on campus, but they were on campus during their infection period.
Maybe I may have said that, not said that clearly. So it's not so much that they contracted it, but they were on campus
During their time of
during their time of infection. So thank you for pointing that out. But it is the same reporting requirement that was done this previous year. So I probably would explain that. So thank you.
And I wanted to make that distinction. I didn't want to alarm parents who are thinking about sending their children back to school, thinking that our schools are somehow unsafe, or they are more likely to come into contact with the virus on campus. Quite honestly, I make just the exact argument that you're probably less likely to come into contact with the virus on campus than you are in your community because of the safety protocols that we have in place on our school campus.
That's a great point. And I've shared that with some of the media because they say, what are you doing if they can't wear masks if masks are not mandated? Well, masks can be worn. We're encouraging mask wearing, but there are also other very important mitigation strategies that you did last year that work: cleaning, contact tracing, hand washing, sitting 3 feet apart. All those things districts are doing that we hope will make a safe environment.
It's also important to remember we have in between the students and staff right under that was going around that. So we have
Superintendent Spearman, before we let you sit down, could I prevail upon you to introduce our new board member who's there with you this afternoon?
and then also good products. That's what I was going to say.
Right, and those, Ryan was just saying that when you look at close to 1 million folks involved in K-12 education, whether they are in public or private schools, students, staff, it does add up to about, And I'm going to introduce Mary, but Mary, you're going to have to help me with last name because I went totally blank. But we're so thankful to have you representing the Low Country, Beaufort County, I think is your residence, right? And we're excited, former board member and very eager, and we're so glad that you are here now. So would you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, Mom. I served on the Beaufort County School Board, Ms. Michael.
Yeah.
And, but I have not been on there for about 6 years now, I think. Maybe not that long, but, I worked for the University of South Carolina for over 40 years. I started in Columbia here, and I'm now currently working as the budget director at USC. And I'm looking forward to working with each other.
Thank you, Mary Cordray. Mary Cordray, thank you for being willing to serve. Appreciate it. Any other questions of me, Mr. Walters?
Yes. All right. Thank you, Superintendent Spearman, and welcome to our new board member, Mary Cordray. We're delighted to have you with us. And the next item on our agenda, if we have any, would be parliamentary comments. Ms. Hazelwood, I think, is traveling today.
No comments.
I want to sign up.
All right. And no public comments as well?
That is correct.
Okay, in that case, we will move right along to the Policy and Legislative Committee report. I think they had 3 items up for today.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I will report that for the Policy and Legislative Committee. The committee did have 3 action items reported this morning. The proposed amendment to the State Board of Education Regulation 43-300, which is accreditation criteria. That was the first reading, which was approved in committee, and Dr. Sarah Longshore had presented that to the group. Also, Ms. Stephanie Bastaccio had presented Charleston County School District's request for exemption from North Charleston High School pursuant to South Carolina Code 59-19-350, which was schools of innovation exempt from state laws and regulations. We also had Director Jasmine Shaw from the Office of School Facilities, which provided a request for approval of a property disposal in Union County School District. All 3 of those items were approved within committee and placed on the consent agenda for today's meeting. And then also, as information, Dr. Sarah Longshore shared with the committee school district waiver request update.
Okay, thank you very much for that report. We'll move on to the Educator Professions Committee report.
Yes, Mr. Vice Chair, this is Dr. West. The Education Professions Committee met and had 1 action item. That was the approval of the new members of the PRC, the Professional Review Committee. Clay Barton, Education Associate, presented the slate of nominees and they were approved. There were no information items presented, so the committee placed 1 item, EP01, on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Dr. West. Standards Learning and Accountability Committee report.
And 1 approval item presented to the SLA committee this morning. Dr. David Mathis presented the 2nd set of district virtual learning programs for approval, and board members have access to those within their document. We did vote during committee to approve that and to add it to the consent agenda today for board. We also had 1 information item that was presented to the SLA committee. Dr. David Mathis introduced Dr. Quincy Moore, who gave an update on the implementation of multi-tiered system of support, also known as MTSS, and shared the annual report which board members have received.
Okay, thank you very much. And now, it looks like it's time for me to give the Educator Licensure Committee report. We met this morning and heard a total of 16 cases. We had 2 applications that were approved for student teaching and other ones for PACE program. We had 1 consent order of suspension, 1 public reprimand, 1 order of revocation, and the balance of the cases were orders of suspension for unprofessional conduct. Some for breach of contract and others just general unprofessional conduct. So that was the Educator Licensure Committee report. That was ratified in the full Board Educator Licensure Committee meeting, which I'll also report to you. We heard 4 cases in that meeting. 1 was to deny an application for initial certification. There was a suspension for a license. There was a public reprimand, and then there was a permanent revocation of a certificate. And again, all those were dealt with in that committee, so they've already been voted on by the full board. So at this time, you should have the consent agenda, and I would ask if there's a motion to approve it.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. And any opposed, no. And the motion carries. I think that takes us down to our information items. And looks like first up is Dr. Mathis with our literacy update.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, if I could just make mention of the virtual learning program issue that I'm going to bring to the board's attention for, and that gives us an update. It's important for the board to recognize, and I appreciate all the work by the Department of Ed to improve the virtual learning program. But the General Assembly, I think, in proviso has stipulated that any district that enrolls over 5% of the population will be, I'm going to use your funding will be reduced 47%. Okay, for every student over 5%. And as we begin to see more cases of COVID-19 being recognized across the state, more and more parents are really rethinking the decision to send kids in person instruction. I've seen that personally in my district where parents who were committed to sending students are now rethinking that and asking them if they be a part of the virtual academy. As a result, we were probably going to go over the 5%. But we aren't going to restrict the numbers because we recognize that it is a legitimate anxiety that parents have. And I hope that the General Assembly will rethink that decision, particularly given the recent surge in this Delta variant. And so I want to say that publicly and also for the benefit of board members so you recognize that there are some parameters around virtual learning that have been put in place by the General Assembly, which has caused maybe some districts to say we're going to try and restrict the number of students that we allow to participate in our virtual academy under 5%, so we are penalized relative to funding.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Green. All right, Dr. Mathis.
Thank you, Mr. Walters. Just a brief literacy update. I reported at the July meeting plans for the South Carolina Department of Education to advertise a request for proposal from publishers who address the science of reading in their curriculum. And as an update, the RFP was released on August 2nd and requesting a deadline of August 31st of 2021 for their submission. A review team will convene during the week of September 27th to include publisher presentations, which include time for the committee to evaluate, deliberate, and make program recommendations. Approved publishers should be prepared to begin providing information to the Palmetto Literacy Project schools no later than November 2021. Our focus for the science of reading curriculum are those students in the schools in the Palmetto Literacy Project where 30% more than third graders are and does not meet the ELA portion of SC Ready. The focus of the department will be to provide instructional literacy professional learning and training with the new curriculum as a requirement of the adoption consideration. Additionally, building level administrators will be trained in supporting teachers through the use of the curriculum and through classroom observations. The goal is to improve instructional delivery and student outcomes by providing ongoing professional learning using the curriculum approved by the department to implement the science of reading and to be implemented by the school district. Funding for this curriculum selection and professional learning earn top priority in our state's ESSER 3 funding plan. Priority is matched by our sense of urgency to provide curriculum and teacher training areas, particularly where our students were the most impacted by the pandemic. So here are the goals of this endeavor. Provide teachers in the Palmetto Literacy Project schools with a viable quality curriculum. Provide teachers with intensive and ongoing professional learning and implementing the curriculum with the goal of improving literacy instruction. And also train building level administrators in supporting teachers through classroom observations, feedback, and then to identify additional training needed. That's just a brief update of what's next on our agenda in our commission for literacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mathis. Any questions for Dr. Mathis? If not, we'll move on to Sarah Longshore and the school district waiver request update.
Good afternoon. Regulation 43-261 allows the South Carolina Department of Education to waive regulatory requirements for similarly situated districts and schools. Therefore, between May 18th and June 13th, the South Carolina Department of Education approved 14 waivers for districts. And that list has been provided to you as information. This concludes my presentation, but I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
Just for the good of the audience, could you explain, are there common waivers that were requested?
Sure. Out of the 14 waivers that we approved in this last round, 13 of those were waivers related to districts' desire to be able to operate their virtual programs. So they were asking for flexibilities related to seat time and to instructional hours during the day. That was the majority of them. There was one other one where they were requesting exemption from the 15 to 30 minutes.
And thank you very much. I think it's important for the board to understand. You may get some calls from educators, from administrators. Dr. Bernie was correct with the limiting of the 5%. We do have more folks who are still virtual. We've had some questions about this numbers of the quarantine students counted. These are families that are signing up for a year-long experience or a virtual experience. But I have had some calls about seat time already, and to let districts know that we are working and looking at that. Some that have already part of it, but other seat time questions that come in. We're looking at this very carefully.
Okay, our next items, 3 of them, in fact, will be from Kimberly Back with our school district updates.
Good afternoon, board members and Superintendent Spearman. I'm going to give you some updates on Allendale County, Florence School District 4, and Williamsburg County School District. In Allendale, they kicked off their 2021-2022 school year with a convocation program, and Dr. Danielle Dickey was the keynote speaker. Allendale Fairfax High School hosted a back-to-school bash and made COVID-19 vaccines available to middle and high school-age students. And Swiss Chrono offered an apprenticeship opportunity to 11th grade student Cameron Williams. He will be the first student apprentice to work inside the Swiss Chronos mill and will learn about pneumatics, hydraulics, and other manufacturing skills. This is a paid 2-year apprenticeship. Florence 4 provided extended year programs for grades K through 8 and content and credit recovery for grades 9 through 12 during June and July. The district held a back-to-school program for all faculty and staff and featured Dr. Baron Davis, superintendent of Richland 2, as their guest speaker. And school started for Florence 4 students on Monday, August 2nd, 2021. Williamsburg County School District is partnering with MUSC to host a COVID vaccination clinic at the King Street Recreational Department on Friday, August 13th, 2021. Anderson Primary will begin its first year as a Montessori school, and the teachers have been involved in professional development since January 2021. And 641 students were served through their summer school academic recovery programs in Williamsburg County. This concludes my report.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Mack. Any questions for her? Hearing none, we'll go to our last information item, and that's Mr. Strother with the Clarence School District 1 update.
Good afternoon, members of the board, Superintendent Spearman. As of July 1st, 2020, Clarendon 1 became consolidated with Clarendon 3 to form Clarendon 4 school district. So this report is to inform you of the financial status of Clarendon 1 as of June 30th, 2021. South Carolina Department of Education took over financial management of the district after state board approval on October 15th. At that time, the district reported a $2.3 million cash deficit, South Carolina retirement system liability of around $800,000, Credit's liability of $425,000, South Carolina Department of Revenue liability of $125,000, a tax anticipation note due for $2.6 million, and open general obligation bond debt be settled before consolidation of about $4.2 million. The result of the South Carolina Department of Education involvement, the retirement system, the IRS, the South Carolina Department of Revenue obligations were paid in full. Tax anticipation notice paid. District carried $0 general obligation bond debt consolidated district. And Clarendon 1 reported a $978,000 cash surplus as of June 30th, 2021. Currently, the FY20 audit is near completion, and the audit for FY21 will be underway shortly. That concludes my report for the Clarendon 1 school district. There is a question.
Any questions for Mr. Strother?
Mr. Chairman, I just have a comment. I have to say thank you to our staff and for all the folks who helped staff in Clarendon 1 as well as the contractor folks. Thank you particularly going down and working with them. Fire situation and all on the miracle. So thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Now would be the time if there's any other business to be brought before the board, if anybody has anything else. Hearing nothing, we will consider this meeting adjourned. Thank you for participating today.